How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, coast to coast, now in Austin, Texas, as we continue to grow the show. So we made it to Sacramento. We've made it to Austin. We're taking over the capitals of American states. We're in Springfield, Illinois as well. We're getting into all the capitals, slowly but surely. Friends, the new CEO of National Public Radio, in a tweet that has resurfaced from 2019, said she made the conscious decision to not have children, though she loves children, because of the climate crisis. You can't make this stuff up. Literally, let me just read you the tweet. I don't know. The planet is literally burning, and it took until my early 30s to stop living paycheck to paycheck, and maybe giant ethical gamble for children in question has become clear, unless, of course, you're suffused with enough privilege to not have to wonder. I love kids, so it's pretty distressing, and the children of friends and family are the sun and moon, so glib commentary on deeply personal issues helps no one. Wow. So not going to have kids because the planet is burning. This is crazy. My goodness. By the way, a programming note for you guys in the next hour, and she keeps being pulled into meetings, and we're trying to accommodate. The Israeli Consul General to the Southeast United States she's been stationed in Cameroon. She's been stationed in Europe. She's now stationed in the Southeast United States and is going to come on and brief us about the Israeli situation in light of the Iranian attack, what we need to know. We're going to do it at the top of the hour. They're having to move it to the 2:30, 2:40-ish. We're not going to have as much time as we had wanted, but she keeps being understandably so pulled into a lot of meetings herself, and she's trying to arrange her schedule to be with us. But we're going to make that happen in the next hour with the Israeli Consul General in the United States. Now, it's time to talk about the Trump trial. Alvin Bragg, the district attorney in Manhattan, is going where every other state and federal prosecutor was scared to go. And if you are actually someone who can set your partisanship aside, and I don't know that that's possible when it comes to Donald Trump, you should follow my example. You know, I'm not a fan of the guy. I'm willing to criticize you. I get more hate mail from Trump supporters than from anyone else out there these days, because I'm willing to criticize the guy. He's not my favorite, even as I might like his policies, but I'm willing to call out what I think are bad ideas from him. Try to do that with everyone. I'm a formerly elected Republican. I'm a conservative. I said I'd support him in 2020, even if I didn't in 2016. I'm willing to recognize I'd prefer his policies to Joe Biden's policies, but the man is not infallible, and I don't actually think it helps to keep my mouth shut when he does things I disagree with. What's remarkable to me are people on the left who so hate Donald Trump, who are willing to sacrifice every ideal they claim to hold to stop the man. It reminds me so much of that scene of Man for All Seasons about stopping the devil. And what Alvin Bragg is doing, frankly, I think is a genuine miscarriage of justice. It is just a really bad case, and so many people who hate Donald Trump don't care about the case. They care about stopping Donald Trump, and if they got to cut down every tree to stop the devil, They don't care about the consequences, what happens when the devil then turns back. This is from Man for All Seasons.
Arrest him.
For what?
He's
For
dangerous.
libel. He's a spy.
Father, that man's bad.
There's no law against that.
There is God's law.
Then God can arrest him.
While you talk, he's gone.
And go he should if he were the devil himself until he broke the law.
So, now you'd give the devil benefit of law.
Yes, what would you do? Cut a great road through the law to get after the devil?
Yes. I'd cut down every law in England to do that.
Oh? And when the last law was down and the devil turned round on you, where would you hide, Roper, the laws all being flat? This country is planted thick with laws from coast to coast, man's laws, not God's. And if you cut them down, and you're just the man to do it, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would blow then? Yes, I'd give the devil benefit of law for my own safety's sake.
That's the line from Robert Bolt's A Man for All Seasons about Sir Thomas More. I want to explain to you in as dispassionate terms as I can what's going on, mindful, of course, that there are going to be Trump supporters who send me hate mail on this, because I'll just be blunt with you. Well, Donald Trump was married to Melania Trump, and she had just had their one child. Donald Trump had an affair with a porn star, had sex with a porn star while his wife recovered from pregnancy. Donald Trump had a prenup agreement with his wife that if he committed adultery, he would pay her massive sums of money. Stormy Daniels is the porn star in question. Donald Trump got his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, to pay Stormy Daniels off to shut her up, and she signed a statement using her stage name, not a real name, claiming that the affair never happened. This was all nonsense. Donald Trump, instead of documenting it as paying off a debt, documented it as ongoing legal expenses. In fact, he paid Michael Cohen an amount of money to pay off to Stormy Daniels, and then also to pay Michael Cohen the value of the taxes that he would then owe as money into his law firm, because he was not going to direct that money directly to Stormy Daniels. He was going to pay her other money, so he had to account for taxes as well. It was very clearly designed to pay off Stormy Daniels, so she kept her mouth shut, and it happened during Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Donald Trump cheated on his wife with a porn star and bought off her silence. That is an undeniable fact. It's been denied, including by a lot of Trump supporters, because they claim that she signed a statement denying it. Her statement was not in court under oath. I see Marjorie Taylor Greene trotting out her Stormy Daniels statement today, using her stage name, not a real name, saying this thing never happened. What matters is what's said under oath in a court of law. There are federal campaign laws. And if you pay an expense, you have to document it under federal campaign law. Donald Trump did not document this expense to Stormy Daniels in his federal campaign financial disclosure reports. There's a problem for the prosecutor. There are lots of problems for the prosecutor. What the prosecutor is trying to do is say that Donald Trump essentially committed a documents crime in New York by attributing a payment to X when it was actually to Y. Problem is that's a misdemeanor in New York, and the statute of limitations has long expired. So Alvin Bragg has taken a novel path through cutting down all of the laws to get to Donald Trump. The novel path Alvin Bragg has taken is to say this was actually a campaign finance violation. And because it's a campaign finance violation and is a felony, that the documents, the misattributed documentation under state law becomes a felony because it was done to cover up a federal felony crime. The problem for Alvin Bragg, this gets a little complicated. Essentially, he's saying that normally What Donald Trump did, attributing a payment to Stormy Daniels as legal bills to Michael Cohen, and it was actually to pay off a debt to Stormy Daniels to keep her mouth shut. What he didn't do was disclose it on federal campaign finance law. He didn't disclose it, but this was done so that it wouldn't sabotage his election. Therefore, it's a violation of federal campaign finance law. And since it's a violation of federal campaign finance law, that elevates the crime from a misdemeanor in New York to a felony in New York that extends the statute of limitations. And he can now prosecute Donald Trump for every little thing related to this. There's a problem. You are listening to someone who was a federal campaign finance lawyer. The rule for whether or not something is a campaign expenditure is, would the expenditure exist but for the person running for office? Would the expenditure exist but for the candidate running for office? If the expenditure would still be made, even if the candidate were not running for office, it is not considered a campaign expenditure under federal law. Alvin Bragg argues that the only reason Donald Trump covered this up was because he was afraid it would come out while he was running for office, sabotage his campaign for office. Therefore, it was a campaign expenditure. Therefore, it should have been disclosed on his campaign finance report. And because it wasn't, it's covering up a crime that makes the underlying state case a felony, and he can prosecute Donald Trump. There's a problem. Remember what I said in the beginning? Donald Trump cheated on Melania Trump with a porn star after she'd given birth to her child, and they have a prenuptial agreement where if Donald Trump committed adultery, he would pay massive sums of money to Melania Trump. Donald Trump has a very good argument that he would have had to make this payment to Stormy Daniels regardless of whether or not he was running for office. And remember the test. If the payment would still have been made, even if the candidate wasn't running for office, it's not a campaign expenditure. So if it's not a campaign expenditure, there's no underlying federal crime. Therefore, you can't elevate a misdemeanor in New York to a felony in New York. Therefore, it's outside the statute of limitations. Therefore, there's no prosecution. And there's another catch. There's a bigger catch. Alvin Bragg says he's prosecuting this as a state case based on a federal felony. The problem is that federal campaign finance law clearly says only the federal government can prosecute someone for violating federal campaign finance law. Alvin Bragg says, well, I'm actually prosecuting him for a state state misrepresentation and documentation case. It just happens to be based on the federal campaign finance misrepresentation. But no federal entity has prosecuted Donald Trump for violating federal law. There was never even been a hint of it. The FEC dismissed any accusation about Donald Trump as if there was no federal felony violation. So if there's no federal felony violation and no prosecution of Donald Trump and no finding of guilt for Donald Trump, how then can Alvin Bragg extrapolate a federal felony to apply it to a state case to extend a statute of limitations? That's the problem. That's the problem with the whole case. It is such a stretch, it boggles the mind that it's a legitimate prosecution. And in fact, very few legal scholars on the left are even willing to acknowledge this is a legitimate prosecution. In fact, if anything, this gives Donald Trump some wiggle room on how to advance his case. This is a reporter from the Associated Press talking about how Trump intends to handle this.
Julie, we enter a new world tomorrow. First former president ever to face a criminal trial. What should we expect?
It's pretty remarkable. I mean, we're going to go through this procedural act of selecting a jury and something that many of us have sat through being on a jury before, and yet it's going to be for a trial of a former president of the United States. We've literally never seen this before, and Trump is going to use this courtroom and other courtrooms to come as really the centerpiece of his campaign. It's worked for him through the primary. I think the question now will be how that sliver of moderate voters, that sliver of persuadable voters will react to seeing him in this.
That's what I don't want.
Yeah, he's going to use this to grandstand. This will wind up helping Donald Trump. And I don't think that a jury in New York is going to find him innocent, but you may get a hung jury in this, which would be fitting. This is an overreach by a state-level prosecutor who's trying to claim something was a federal crime that no federal prosecutor has been willing to prosecute Donald Trump under, when federal prosecutors in the Biden administration have been willing to prosecute Donald Trump for pretty much anything. They wouldn't prosecute him for this. But Alvin Bragg will, something that his predecessor in office and the U.S. attorney in New York all rejected as being possible. The problem here is that when you listen to MSNBC and other commentary, they treat this as very legitimate, and they're not willing to question the audacity of the prosecutor doing this because it goes back to Sir Thomas More. They're willing to cut down every law in the land to get Donald Trump. And when he turns around and there are no laws left, what will they do when he becomes president of the United States and comes after them? Nothing. They'll have no legal ground to stand on. Greetings, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am delighted to have you with me. I would, I want to take a phone call, but I don't have enough time because it went long in the last segment. Charlie, you don't have to lecture me. I know I did. But if you guys will be patient, coming up in the next half hour, I'll take your phone calls. Again, 877-973-7425. Happy to have you with me. Right now, I got a bunch of other stuff that I want to talk about, and in particular, just need to tell you about this bizarre story from out west in Seattle. I think it was Jason Rance who flagged this. They had an event out in Seattle, and someone wore an outfit. Yes, a dance team. They dressed with American flags. Members of a regional women's country line dance team said they were effectively kicked out of a Seattle dance competition after organizers claimed their American flagged-themed shirts made some attendees feel, quote, triggered and unsafe. The Borderline dance team was invited to the Emerald City Hoedown in Seattle this past weekend. The organizers were the Rain Country Dance Association, an LGBTQ plus dance community. Invited them to come to the competition. They were able to come this year after repeated invites. They wore matching shirts themed around the American flag, and it was triggering, too triggering for the group. My goodness gracious. I got to tell you about Swiss America, folks. Banks are having their credit downgraded, economic turmoil out there. Swiss America wants to help you protect your hard-earned assets right now. They can educate you on how to protect your hard-earned assets, and they've got to begin your education. Their special report completely for free, The Secret War on Cash. To get it, you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency spreading daily. If you want to get the Secret War on Cash report completely for free, just mention my name, Eric Erickson, when you call or text Swiss America to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. All you do is mention my name, Eric Erickson, to Swiss America. Get the report completely for free. 800-289-2646. Message data rates apply. Oh, Omega, welcome to the Eric Erickson Show. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. What's going on?
Oh, not anything. I was just thinking this morning that the Democrats all seem like they're so filled with glee with Trump being on trial. Don't they realize they are giving him millions of dollars of free advertisement? He's like Briar Rabbit in the Briar Patch when he kept saying, don't throw me in the Briar Patch. Trump
Okay, so you did not know this, but so you had no way of knowing. But we take the show, and when we do the podcast, we do it by hour, and Charlie makes me give an hour, a title to each hour, and literally the title that I posted for this hour. Let me pull it up so I can read it to you accurately. The title for this hour is "Throwing Trump into the Briar Patch."
You are kidding me. You are kidding.
Because it's the perfect analogy that people get. I mean, you are throwing Trump into the briar patch. He loves this sort of publicity where he gets to say, I'm being persecuted. And this case is so wild. He's got a legitimate grievance.
They wouldn't carry his speeches. They wouldn't carry anything. But now they're doing wall-to-wall coverage. He is getting all the advertisement that that he could ask for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they keep doing these things to hurt him, and everything they throw at him just winds up helping him. It really is remarkable.
Let me tell you something else ironic before you go. Biden is out here begging for the black vote. It's all the black district attorneys that's giving Trump all the free advertising.
You're right. You're right. Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg. You're absolutely right. Omega, thanks very much for the phone call. Totally right on this. It is a massive distraction, and it's one I think that actually works to Trump's advantage. Now, I'll tell you how the media is trying to overcome this, and it's kind of predictable. Let me set the stage for all of you here. Let me just back you up and set the stage. What happened over the weekend? Massive attack from Iran against Israel, and the run-up to the Donald Trump trial in New York City with Alvin Bragg. So you got all the Sunday shows. Going to cover the Iran attack on Israel and the Trump trial in New York. But what did they choose to cover instead? Over to you, Meet the Press.
Governor, President Biden has said that if he's reelected, he will codify Roe v. Wade. As you know, it is highly unlikely he will have 60 votes in the Senate to do that. Is the president offering voters false hope on this point?
Doesn't matter. They're going to talk about abortion. Over to you, George Stephanopoulos.
I think the president...
You say that the American people will not be conned by Donald Trump, but his position now is relatively clear, isn't it? Saying this should be a state-by-state issue?
Well, so think about what that means exactly. First of all, he said that he is the person who is proudly responsible for overturning Roe. That is what...
We can, I don't even have to play you the full clips. You get the point here. The media is scared to death the Alvin Bragg case is going to help Donald Trump. That's the dirty little secret here. Now, why? Because that's when Donald Trump's polling skyrocketed. When Alvin Bragg announced he would be indicting Donald Trump under a novel theory of the law, you've got to remember that even Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, when she realized what Alvin Bragg was doing, stopped talking about the case. They realize how weak it is. Yet, the Democrats are obsessed with pursuing Donald Trump in this way. So instead, they got to amplify abortion. They think abortion is the winning issue. We need to just pause and acknowledge this, the remarkable display. So the Arizona case now, they've been through this. We got the Arizona case. We've had ad nauseum discussion on the media. You have a massive attack against Israel by Iran, the first time that a nation has tried to directly attack Israel since Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War. You have Donald Trump headed to trial. And you have, let's talk about abortion. And hey, did you know Donald Trump's to blame? Did you know that Donald Trump's one? There's some polling I've seen out of Arizona that the abortion decision in Arizona by the Supreme Court there, essentially saying that there's a law that's now back in effect from the 1800s and the legislature is going to need to change it. We don't have the power to change it. That fires up Democrats more than Republicans, and it makes people slightly more inclined to vote Democrat in Arizona. That same poll showed that Donald Trump is winning Arizona, but that Kari Lake is losing Arizona. What I find even more remarkable in all of this is that the Republicans can't seem to find a coherent message. And the media, working with the Democrats, knows it, and they're on offense. Now, listen, when you accept that the media is in the tank for the Democrats and trying to stop Donald Trump, you have to stop asking yourself, why are they doing this? And start asking yourself, why aren't the Republicans responding more effectively? And you know what Kari Lake has done? That's essentially to throw the pro-life community under the bus. A growing number of Republicans are throwing the pro-life community under the bus. those Republicans are essentially saying we've got to abandon our deeply held views on life for a long time in order to stop the Democrats from winning. Now, these people were never pro-life to begin with. Even Carrie Lake was pro-abortion until she decided to become a Republican, and now she's gone back to being pro-abortion. Speaking of Carrie Lake's campaign, y'all, there's an account on Twitter, third-year Letterman, and he is a University of Georgia fan. And the account is a parody account of a rabid football fan, the three-year Letterman. Here's what you have to understand. Let me describe the account for you in its own terms. Quote, youth football coaching legend, diehard Georgia fan, three-year high school football Letterman, show-stopping Little League umpire, regional champion, three-way tie. The three-year Letterman account he actually is a diehard University of Georgia football fan, but also runs an account that is a satirical parody of an obnoxious sports fan. He trolls people. For example, in the fictions of this account, Benjamin Franklin was president of the United States and invented electricity. That sort of thing. His comebacks are often about his Uncle Gary and that he drives a Toyota Corolla with a 23-disc CD changer. What this account does so brilliantly is people start fights with him and attack him, and he just highlights the absurd people who dare to respond to him. It's actually very funny. Well, Carrie Lake's campaign has joined the ranks of Keith Olbermann, Hugh Freeze, Lauren Boebert, and some obnoxious parliamentarian from Canada to attack the third-year Letterman account. So Carrie Lake's account tweets, the election was an absolute disaster. An untold number of your constituents were disenfranchised, tweeting to Doug Ducey and Katie Hobbs, the former governor and current governor of Arizona. Hobbs helped run it. It's unfair to the people of Arizona to legitimize a process they believe is illegitimate before addressing their concerns. So three-year Letterman, who is an admitted troll on Twitter, responds, Senator Ducey has the power to declare his successor. I recommend reading the Constitution and deleting this. To which Carrie Lake's campaign responds, I recommend logging off. To which three-year Letterman responds, and I recommend showing some respect to a man who owns a riverside timeshare in Pigeon Forge. So Carrie Lake's social media presence gets into a fight with a self-admitted Twitter troll. After having then abandoned her pro-life position and embraced a pro-abortion position, the Babylon Bee satirizes Carrie Lake, announcing, quote, Carrie Lake announces plan to lose another election, but this time while supporting baby murder. The Carrie Lake account responds now to the Babylon Bee. This is reprehensible. So Carrie Lake's account, in addition to now abandoning a pro-life position, is now wasting enormous sums of energy attacking satirists on social media instead of actually responding. The whole thing is bizarre. She's behind in the polling in Arizona to the progressive, very progressive Democrat. Even the internal Republican polling I've seen has her losing even as Donald Trump is winning the state. She's doing everything she can to flail about and be a victim again. What a disastrous nominee the Republicans of Arizona have decided to foist on the people of Arizona, and probably going to get a Democrat elected. And this is why the media continues to elevate abortion. You've got all of these major headlines in the world today, and the media continues to fixate on abortion because they know it helps the Democrats. Because they know that this issue is one the Republicans have not come up with a comprehensive answer on. They need to come up with an answer. Glenn Youngkin and the Republicans of Virginia came up with one that neutralized the issue in Virginia, and that was to support a 15-week ban with exceptions. Abortion would be legal in Virginia until 15 weeks. That poll tests very well, including in places like Arizona. Abolitionists of the pro-life movement hate it because it allows some abortions. But mainstream moderate voters love it. So the pro-life movement is probably going to get itself marginalized altogether. And the question for the pro-life movement is going to have to be, would you rather abortion on demand until birth or abortion until 15 weeks? Because you're not going to get, as much as we may want it, a complete abortion ban in this country. The public uniformly rejects it. And at the end of the day, we have democratic institutions, including the right to vote, and voters are voting for candidates who give them some abortion rights. The pro-life movement is the dog that caught the car, and the car has been running over it ever since. So it's going to have to decide, negotiate its terms of surrender at this point, sadly and unfortunately, but that to some degree is true. I am pro-life. I would love to ban abortion in this country. The reality is, in some states, you can get a 6-week abortion ban without repercussions, and in some states, you can't. Now, the difference between the states where you can and the states where you can isn't as much partisanship as you would believe. The fact is there are competent pro-life candidates in this country who've been able to navigate this issue, including people like Brian Kemp in the state of Georgia with a 6-week abortion ban. And in a very swing state was able to get reelected because his issue was crime in the economy, among other things. So pro-lifers, you're going to have to negotiate your surrender, or you're going to have to find better candidates and teach them how to run for office on this issue. And right now, you're kind of dropping the ball across the board. So you got to decide. You're giving up ground. You're on defense. What are you going to do to survive and advance? There is a way to survive and advance, and people like Brian Kemp in Georgia have shown you how to survive and advance. But then you have candidates that you're complicit in nominating, like Carrie Lake, who are willing to throw all pro-lifers under the bus to save her own skin. So you got to decide, pro-lifers, how are you going to proceed on this? Americans for Prosperity is proceeding by focusing on conservative issues, common sense issues, and how they help families in America, whether it's school choice or tax reform in this country. Today is April 15th. All of us paying our taxes. I had to write my tax check this morning. Painful. Americans for Prosperity likes common sense conservative reforms, and they want you on their side. If you go to americansforprosperity.org/Eric today, you can sign up for Americans for Prosperity and become an effective conservative activist. AFP teaches you how to go door to door to be persuasive to your neighbor, to go to your state legislature. Or here's the thing. Let's say you're an introvert. You don't want to go knock on doors. You don't want to go to your state legislature. They provide you the information so when you're in your quiet moments with friends and these issues come up, you have all of the facts to be persuasive to your friends about the right issue and the right side of each issue, because they want you to be effective in advocating for freedom and for families. Go to americansforprosperity.org/Eric today. Americansforprosperity.org/ERICK. Sign up with them today. Be a highly effective conservative activist. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If y'all want to be on the program, very, very happy to have y'all. So, Scottie Scheffler, the winner of the Masters, this is his second time winning. What I found so notable about being at the Masters on Friday, one, my son told me, I actually texted Dan Cathy, the former CEO of Chick-fil-A, and I said, my son wanted me to pass along to you that having experienced the Masters the first time, if the government let Chick-fil-A and Augusta National be in charge of everything, the world would be better off. It was so orderly. The lines moved so fast, even the lines into the gift shop, the pro shop, just extraordinarily fast. Everything was done so well. Everybody was so nice. Nobody had cell phones. Everyone was engaged with each other. And at the end of the day, you just wanted to see how low could Scottie Scheffler go. He wound up being 11 under par. He almost got close to 12 under par. People wanted a tight race. It didn't wind up being a tight race, but it just wound up being such a good race, competition. He's just such a good guy. And he's devoted to his wife. He was willing to leave willing to leave the Masters if his wife went into labor, even though he was ahead. This is part of his post-conference. He's wearing his green jacket.
Sitting around with my buddies this morning, I was a bit overwhelmed because I told him, I was like, I wish that I didn't want to win as badly as I did, or as badly as I do. I think it would make the mornings easier, but I love winning. I hate losing. I really do. And when you're here in the biggest moments, when I'm sitting there with the lead on Sunday, I really, really want to win badly. And my buddies told me this morning, my victory was secure on the cross. And that's a pretty special feeling, to know that I'm secure for forever. And it doesn't matter, whether or not I win this tournament or if I lose this tournament, my identity is secure for forever.
And yet he won. Just a remarkably good guy. But what was so remarkable is that the crowds weren't following Scotty Scheffler. They were following Tiger Woods. Y'all, I was within 6 inches of Tiger Woods. And he was so incredibly focused, never made eye contact with the crowd. It was a remarkable. It was incredible. And Scotty Scheffler is a brilliant golfer who fixed his putting problems. And the people at Augusta National were just so incredibly nice. Just the nicest people. Everybody on their best behavior. It was just great.